You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebelpreneur Radio, where we help you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. You know, I've said many times that we live in a relationship economy. It's not just what you know, but who you know. Your success in life and in business has a lot to do with networking and forging those key relationships. My guest today is going to help you create networking success. Her name is Jennifer Lynn Robinson. She is the CEO of Purposeful Networking. She conducts keynotes, workshops, and seminars, assisting companies, nonprofits, universities, and conferences to help ensure your networking is working for you. Jennifer, it's a pleasure to have you on Rebelpreneur Radio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Now, you are also the president of FemCity Philadelphia, which is a women's business networking organization that has more than 1,800 members. So you can definitely teach us something about how to network. But first, tell us more about what you do and who you help.
Sure. So as you said, I do keynotes and workshops, anything from, a 20 to 30 minute talk to a half day workshop on various networking topics, things such as preparing for networking events, what to say and how to hold conversations, using LinkedIn for networking, how to follow up and build relationships after an initial meeting, crafting your elevator pitch, things of that nature. I also do a lot around women's leadership and networking. So that's some of my focus of what I do. And, I mainly work with the places you said, so law firms, companies, universities, nonprofits, and different conferences. A lot of my work is local to the Philadelphia region, but I love traveling. And when I have that opportunity, I definitely do it and would love to do more of it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting and a very niche thing. My background is in strategic communication, so I know the importance of crafting your message and being able to communicate effectively with other people. How did you get started doing this? Tell us the story of where you came from and what got you into this.
Right. So I'm one of those entrepreneurs that had no plan of becoming an entrepreneur. So I grew up wanting to be a lawyer. I went to law school and I did litigation for 12 years. And then unfortunately, I had a near-death accident and I'm really lucky to be here. So this is actually the 10-year anniversary of my accident, 2018. So it's been a long road, since the accident. I had very serious physical injuries. And I also had a traumatic brain injury. So unfortunately, that took me out of doing my courtroom work. So I ended up starting a business doing consulting that was mainly centered on fundraising, putting nonprofits and businesses together. And at that point, really all my contacts were in the legal community. That's where my focus had been. And I realized very quickly, I'm going to have to expand my network. Nobody knows who I am outside of my small legal community. And now I'm trying to grow a whole new business. So I just really hustled, for my first year, and I grew a very big network. And then people started coming to me for help to build their own networks, even though that wasn't even part of my business model of what I was doing or planning on doing with my business. So I ended up changing the focus of the business, focusing on helping people with their networking and marketing and doing consulting on a one-on-one basis, kind of knowing in the back of my mind that I always wanted to grow it into what I'm doing now with the keynotes and workshops. But to be honest, at the time, I really wasn't in a place to be doing that. The recommendations from my therapist were basically, you might want to think about considering something that doesn't involve public speaking. That's not going to be that realistic for you in the future. So, here I am, and that's the whole business model now. That's all I do. I don't do the consulting anymore. I only do the speaking and workshops, and I'm very proud of, how far I've been able to come with that.
Wow. And that's really a testimony to the power that you have shown to be able to overcome that and to do what other people say you can't do in spite of all the obstacles. And yet here you are. And the other thing that strikes me about your story is that you didn't go into business necessarily to learn how to do sales and marketing and networking, but as a business owner, you realize you've got to be able to do that. And so this is not something that you can outsource to somebody else. You can get someone to design your website, do your other technical work here and there, but it's really difficult for a business owner to outsource their sales and their marketing and their networking. So you learn, just like I did, that you've got to learn how to market and how to sell if you want to stay in business. So now you're helping people to make sure that their networking is working for them. And this is what you talk about. And with the people that you work with, what would you say is the most common problem that keeps coming up over and over again when it comes to networking?
So it's a really basic one. There's not any, mystery or, complexity to it. I think people's biggest challenge is that they hate talking to strangers. So they either avoid networking events altogether because they don't like selling themselves, they don't like talking to people, they don't like breaking into conversations, or they will go to networking events, but they'll end up talking to the few people in the room that they know. They'll either come with business colleagues or friends, or they'll get to the event and see a business colleague or a friend and kind of latch onto them, and then either realize they haven't networked because they haven't met anyone new, or feel like they have networked because they actually went and talked to people, even if it wasn't new people, and leave. And, the bottom line is they really didn't help their networking efforts.
Yeah. Now, we were talking offline about the unique challenges of people who were running a business from home. You're out and about and you're networking, and there's networking events that people can go to. But then there's people like me where I spend most of my time in studio and I'm not out going to the events. Am I at a disadvantage, or is there something that people working from home or people who don't get out, how do they compensate for the lack of face-to-face?
Yeah, well, I think, you're in a unique position because I feel like, with your radio guests, you're actually meeting new people all the time, which is wonderful. But for the average person that has a business that's more home-based and you're not getting out, the way that I do with my business, I think, with technology, there's so much that you can do. I mean, I remember years ago telling people that LinkedIn was the way to go. And I'm a still big believer in LinkedIn. I think it's very powerful from a networking standpoint. But now that you have things like Skype and Google Hangouts and all these other tools where you can FaceTime with people, I think that's a great opportunity to have meetings. If you can't get out to traditional events, or even if you can't get out and have one-on-ones with people where you're meeting them for breakfast or coffee or something, you can still have face-to-face meetings through technology, which I think, puts such an advantage on your networking as far as meeting people. And I think the best thing you can do for yourself is have some consistency to it. So whatever works for your schedule, if you tell yourself you're going to do one of those meetings once a week, once a month, whatever works for you, so that you can at least look back at the calendar and say, I've met 4 new people this month, or 5 new people, or even 1 new person. At the end of the year, that'll be a handful of people that you've met that you didn't know. And I think, holding that one-on-one conversation is really key to find out what people are about, how you can help them, what's the best referral for them, what kind of projects they're working on. A lot of times, even when you are able to go to events, I have found even that people I see for, a year, sometimes more, regularly at events, until I actually sit down with them, I realize I really had no clue what they do or how to refer them, or, what they're working on. Like I thought I did, because I see them all the time. But sometimes you realize you really didn't have a clue. So I think that kind of initial conversation is very important. So I would use those kinds of tools. Also, like I said, LinkedIn, LinkedIn groups are invaluable because you can be as engaged as you want to in the LinkedIn groups, and you can do them at any time of day. So, if it's the kind of situation, like I know a lot of moms around here who are entrepreneurs, and it's not until 9, 10 o'clock at night that they have time to actually think about, sending people emails or getting online, but they can still be very active in different Facebook and LinkedIn groups and engage with people, and post different articles and comment and meet new people. And even if that's all they can do for a little while, that's something, just think about what you can do.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And as I think the technology and the tools that we have give us a lot of flexibility to be able to network in a way that is comfortable for us. Some people, maybe they feel they're more introverted. They're not really comfortable going out and attending events. They're more comfortable behind the computer. But it sounds like what you're saying is with the tools and the social media access that we have today, we really have the potential, if we do it correctly, to actually network and be more effective at networking than at any other previous time in history before the internet. Is that right?
No, I definitely think so. And, talking about introverts and, maybe people that either don't like or can't get to some of the more traditional kind of business card exchanges, I always tell people to focus on other things that they're doing in their life that they might not think of as networking opportunities. So that could be different hobbies, if they're involved, in a gym or a sports club or a church or synagogue, or if they're a parent and they're involved with, let's say, like a parents' organization for their school or the Little League team, like all of those things are opportunities where you're talking to the same parents, the same families, the same community, and they're getting to know you on a personal basis, and you already have common ground. You're both Catholic and you go to the same church together. You both love to run marathons, whatever it is. You may not be thinking of those as opportunities to network, but they are opportunities to network. These are people that already are getting to know you and trust you and like you. And it's never a bad idea to try to explain to people what you do and tell them, what you're looking for as far as your business, since you have those opportunities to chat with them every week anyway, especially if you're in transition. You never know. Some of the people that you see regularly, in these non-traditional kind of settings may have somebody in their network that's hiring or that may have a lead for you. And unless you ask, you're not going to find out.
Yeah, I like what you said previously, because it's the same thing I say, that people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so I think the key to that, and this might help people get over the fear of networking when they feel like, well, I'm being too salesy, or it feels like I'm pushing myself off on people. Networking is really more about building relationships with people and then just kind of letting things progress from there. It's not giving them the hard sell. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. I gave a speech recently, and sometimes I don't even remember what I say. You know how you are when you're in the moment. But somebody had tweeted me and used a quote that I apparently had said that day. They said, never lead with business when networking. And that's really something I try to live by. I think it's all about finding the points of commonality and just having a conversation the way you would when you meet anybody. Just if you're in the grocery line or, you're out and about at a party or whatever. It's not about giving your elevator speech as soon as you meet somebody and kind of forcing that on them and asking them to meet with you and the referrals and all that. As you said, that develops naturally, just builds. But I think, just having that initial conversation where people are going to walk away from it saying, I really like that person and that's somebody I'd like to get to know better. And then things will naturally flow from there because people will want to help you.
So give us an example, someone who may be struggling with this, and you don't do consulting, you just do speaking. So when you're trying to speak to an audience and try to show them networking success, what does that look like? Give us a self-help process or something that someone can begin to implement to start to get a handle on this networking for their life and for their business.
Yeah, I think, as I said a little earlier, I think consistency is really key. So I think, this is a great time at the beginning of the year to think about what you're doing already or not doing that you could start to implement, whether that's, as I said, meeting with one person a week or one person a month virtually or actually in person, but also just having systems in place. So if you are somebody that goes to networking events, you have to have a system for collecting your information about people and then follow up. The statistics are staggering about follow-up. Over 90% of people don't follow up. Even if they meet people and they hit it off and have great conversation, they end up not following up for all kinds of reasons. I mean, people get busy, they're scared, they don't know what to say, they don't think people want to hear from them, they don't want to come across salesy. There's all kinds of reasons. But, you really have to look at following up quickly. I think my general rule is 1 to 3 days, 24 to 72 hours. It doesn't mean that if it's a week or a month later and you find someone's card and you didn't follow up with them that you shouldn't. But, the closer you follow up to meeting them, the more they're going to have a memory of what you talked about and have good feelings about it. But I think also just look at the priority of the people you meet. I know one of the things for me when I first started my business is a lot of people wasted my time, and I let them waste my time because I didn't know any better. So you really have to look at the people you're meeting and think, who is worth my time? Are some people not worth following up with at all? Are some people just worth connecting with on LinkedIn or sending a quick email that it was nice to meet them? other people are worth the in-person meeting. And, maybe somebody's worth sending a handwritten thank you note, which I'm very big on because I think personalizing things is very memorable. So, not everyone is going to require or deserve the same level of follow-up as other people. So to me, anybody that you think might be a good, potential collaborator or partner or lead for your business, obviously is somebody worth following up with. But then I think the other component of that is just people you meet that you have hit it off with, on a personal level, whether you think that they can help you or not. I think anytime you can build a relationship with somebody that you have rapport with, that's a good thing. And, that's only going to lead good places. So those to me are the people that should rise to the top of the list and you should spend your time on and, you should follow up with right away.
Wow, that's so important. And I really like what you said. And not everybody is going to be your ideal prospect. And so you shouldn't treat everybody as if you have something to sell them, because then that does come across as being salesy and needy. And then I think that's where the feelings come from of, I feel so awkward. It's because everyone is not your prospect. So from a marketing standpoint, you really want to eliminate people who are not your prospects. And I think maybe from a networking standpoint, people take the approach of, I got to talk to everybody. I've got to give everybody my card. Everybody has to know who I am. And so there's got to be a balance there. And so I like what you said about you don't follow up with everyone equally because everyone does not represent the same opportunity. Am I describing what you said correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Now give us an example, because you've mentioned a couple of times, and I've heard other people talk about this elevator speech or the elevator. You call it a speech. I've heard some people call it a pitch, an elevator pitch. And I think, again, that gets into the I'm trying to sell you something mindset. So I like the elevator speech a lot better. But tell us in your words what that means and give us an example of a good elevator speech.
So I think what it means is basically introducing yourself and giving a teaser about what you're about. So it's not really saying who you are and listing the 10 services that your company can provide and your promotions. And, and it's, sometimes people try to include the kitchen sink, or maybe they have more than one business and they try in the 30 or 60 seconds that they're given in an event to speak quickly so that they get every bit of information in that 30 to 60 seconds. And that's really not that important. Sometimes I feel like that almost comes across like, when you see those commercials for car deals and at the end they have somebody talking really fast about the disclaimers. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, I've seen people do that, and I just think it's such a disservice. Basically, you're just trying to make a first impression and say, hi, here's who I am, and here's why you would want to talk to me after we're done giving these, speeches. But I think an example of a good one is one where you can give a testimonial or a little bit of a story. I know that one I've given as an example, in some of the talks I've given locally, I have a friend who runs a business called Home Cooked. And basically they provide healthy meals that are delivered to people's homes so that they don't have to stress about what to serve for dinner. So instead of getting up and basically saying what I just said to you, she can say something like, it's 6:30 and you just walked into the house from a hard day and your kids are already asking what's for dinner and you're thinking, oh my God, dinner again, So, I think if you can kind of paint a picture, whether I don't personally have kids, but even if somebody proposed that to me, for example, I gave a gift certificate to her company to my boxing instructors over the holidays because I know they have a young child and they run my boxing business, and then they also both have full-time jobs. So I was thinking, who better to give a gift certificate to, for healthy dinners than people who are A, concerned about health, and B, don't have time, running multiple businesses to put dinner on the table. So I think anytime you can paint a picture of a little bit of a story, it'll either resonate with the person you're talking to, or somebody in the group will think, oh my God, my sister just had a baby and she could really use that. Or, my brother-in-law's wife is in the hospital and I know he doesn't cook and I could really send him some meals. So it'll trigger something for somebody else where they'll see an opportunity to utilize your business.
I really love those examples that you gave, and it reminds me of something my mentor, Jay Abraham, used to say, and it has to do with connecting the dots for people. If you get up and say, well, I'm the CEO of a company that makes, meals or delivers food and so forth, people don't connect the dots to get what the ramification of that is all about. But if you paint them a picture And if you tell a story and get their emotions engaged, then they're nodding their head. And then you say, that's what I do. They get it. They make the connection. So you have to lead people in the direction that you want them to go. So that's a really good example, a great example of an elevator speech and not necessarily a pitch. I love that. So
right.
Now you've got lots going on. You're the CEO of Purposeful Networking. You're doing keynotes, workshops, seminars. You're all over the place. Tell us what you're working on next that you are really excited about.
So I actually put together a year-long networking program for 2018. So what that means is that every month I would come into a company or a firm or a nonprofit and teach them a different aspect of networking skills. So, they could either buy into the whole package and I could come in once a month, or they can do it a la carte and look at the list and say, there are 4 or 6 topics that would resonate with our employees that we would love you to talk about. But I'm excited that I put that together because I like the idea of having some regularity, dealing with the same groups of people and trying to help them over the course of a number of months or the year to really build on their networking skills.
I really like that concept. The idea, for me, it's marketing. People want a marketing calendar. It's not enough just to tell people what they should do. You've got to tell them, here's what you need to be doing this month, next month, the month after that. So you really lay it out for them by giving them topics that are appropriate and are going to be helpful and applicable to them, and giving them a process. And people do love a process. So how...
People love a process, yeah.
Yeah. How can our listeners get in touch to find out more about your services and so forth?
Sure. So I have my website at purposefulnetworking.com. I also have a Facebook page for my business that's called Purposeful Networking. I have, as you mentioned at the beginning, I also run FemCity Philadelphia, which is a very large women's business networking organization in the area. So that group also has femcityphiladelphia.com as our website. And then we also have a FemCity Philadelphia Facebook group that's very active. And then I have my Twitter and Instagram at RU Networked, and it's spelled out ARERU Networked. So that's my handle on there. And you can also reach me there.
Awesome. Well, this has really been enlightening and motivating, I think, for people to say, there's more than one way to network. It's not about selling. It's about building relationships. And I think this is really going to give everyone a good head start on getting their process in place and beginning to see real success with their networking. So this has been a real pleasure to speak with you, Jennifer. Do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners before we close?
I actually was, online this morning since I'm home for a snow day, and I found this quote that I wanted to share. Says, luck and hard work have something to do with success, but it's often the relationships you cultivate that can help you regroup. And it's by Sarah Jessica Parker. So she's, of Sex and the City fame, and also, obviously a well-known actress and fashionista, somebody that I really admire. But I also just love what she said, not only because it deals with the relationships and the networking, but I think one of the things I try to stress to people that I think this quote helps show is that you can be the best at what you do, and there can be somebody half as good that is much more successful than you because they are much better at building relationships and also gaining more visibility for themselves through their networking and marketing. So while you can't be obviously incompetent at what you do, you have to be competent at what you do. Sometimes people look around and they say, why is that person doing so much better than me when, I'm so much smarter, or I've been at this 20 years longer, or whatever it is.
I have that problem all the time. I'm so much smarter, but why don't I have the same success?
Right. And I think, I think people go through that a lot. And I think the reality is for a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, if you look at what sets them apart, it's their network. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind, spend less time working harder and more time building relationships.
Wow, that's really good. That's a really good summation of everything we have talked about. Success in the relationship economy depends not only on what you know, but who you know. And so this is going to be very critical to your life and to your business success, not just in this year, but in every year moving forward. I've been speaking today with Jennifer Lynn Robinson. She is the CEO of Purposeful Networking. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and I wish everybody a very successful and happy 2018.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at ralphbrogden.com.